Today, I want to talk about the importance of taking advantage of opportunities when they come to you. Simultaneously, the other thing that is equally as important, if not even more important, is not talking yourself out of those opportunities or letting someone else talk you out of it for fear of failure. Because really, if you don't try, what's the worst that's going to happen? You fail, nothing ventured, nothing gained, right? Now, I'm not in any position to give anybody any kind of advice at all. All I can do is kind of share with you the things that I did along the way that worked out. And one of those, when I think about opportunity, one of those was Monster Jam years and years ago. And I want to tell you today about my audition, basically, for Monster Jam. That I didn't know how it went, but it ended up going good. And here's why. So my good buddy Chuck Davis, one of the co-founders of Trucks Gone Wild, one of my best friends on the planet, got me involved and introduced me to all the right people at Monster Jam. And we set up everything, and it was going to be in Orlando. We're probably going back to the early 2000s. And I met Joe Lowe, who was a guy. Joe Lowe was the stadium announcer. He and Scott Douglas were the two main announcers for Monster Jam at the time. And on a side note, those two could not have been more wonderful to me as a young guy coming in, not having a clue what was going on. They didn't have to take me under their wings, but they did. They knew I was coming in, and if it went well, I was going to take some of their gigs, but they just welcomed me in, and they were wonderful to me. Joe has passed on, sadly. Scott Douglas is still alive. Scott and Joe, watching from up above, I just have the most respect and thanks for you guys. So, moving on, it's Orlando, it's Citrus Bowl, 70,000 people, right? And that's going to be my audition. I'm there with Joe, and I'm walking around on the crowd floor. The place is packed. Now, I was already running stuff at 8 seconds for a while, and we were used to pretty good sized crowds, like nightclub crowds, right? You know, a Saturday night crowd that was 3,000 or 3,500, no big deal. 70,000, that's a different ball game entirely. It would be real easy for somebody to talk themselves out of doing that, especially when you walk out on that floor and you look up and it's just a sea of people. It's an amazing feeling, one that I love now, but at the time, you know, there was a bit of a learning curve to it. So anyway, the show's starting, and with live event, with so many big events, opening ceremonies is where it's at. That's where all the stress is. That's where all the work is. And Joe was going to handle all that. He goes, dude, just hang out over here. Stay out of the way. I'll handle opening ceremonies. And 10 or 15 minutes into the show, I'm going to hand it over to you. All right? No problem, Joe. I'm ready. You know? He's like, are you? And I wasn't. No, I wasn't, but I told him I was. And I had psyched myself up because I'm like, well, what's the worst that can happen? You know, they laughed me out of here. No big deal. So he's into the show for about 10 minutes and everything. And he gives me a nice little introduction. He's like, ladies and gentlemen, my good buddy Matt Steele. He's from around here. Some of you guys know him. And please make him feel welcome. And there was like a smattering of applause. There were 8 or 9 people that were like, hey, Matt, that's our buddy down there on the floor, you know? And it was pretty cool. And so I get out there and I start talking. I'm like, thanks, Joe. And I'm talking and everything. And I'm trying to keep the energy level up that Joe Lowe had, which if you know Joe Lowe, it is impossible to keep the energy level where he had it. And I did my best, but Joe could take 50 to 70,000 people and get them excited about a freaking banana peel if he wanted to. He was the man, you know? So he hands it over to me and I'm going and I'm feeling like everything's going pretty good. And it's a minute goes by and he comes back over to me and he's like, hey, put the mic. He gives me the sign, like, put the mic down, right? So mic goes down here to where nobody hears it. And I'm like, crap, did I screw this up? I'm not even out here for a minute. And I already screwed up, you know? He goes, hey, you're doing good. I'm going to go take a dump. I'm like, huh? He goes, yeah, I'll be back later. I'm like, all right, show goes on, right? So I'm back. I'm mic'd up, spotlights on, boom, boom, boom. The stuff's going on and everything's going good. I don't know how much time elapses. I'm going to guess 10 minutes or something, right? And I'm feeling really good. The crowd's giving the energy back to me. And at that point, nothing was going disastrously wrong. And that was all that mattered. So back in those days, down at the end of the Citrus Bowl, on the other side of the scoreboard area, it was open and you could get back into like the locker rooms and everything. And that was where the team's locker rooms were, all the bathrooms and everything. And Joe bailed into there. And I look back 10, 15 minutes later and I see him like this, leaning on the wall, just leaning on the wall. And he's looking up into the crowd. And I'm wondering what's going on. You know, how long is he going to leave me out here on this first night? And he's looking up into the crowd, and I can't see if he's smiling or because he's a long ways away. So I don't make eye contact with him. I get back to the action of the crowd another couple of minutes, and I look down and I see Joe, and I see he's looking at me, and I look at him, and I give him the that kind of like, hey, dude, what's up, you know? And he gave me the slow clap like that. I got to tell you, for me, in my young career at the time, that was the rocket that I needed. That was the B12 shot to my career that I needed, because here I am, I'm out there. I don't really know how it's going, but I feel like it's going pretty good. And I look back at the dude who's essentially one of my two mentors in this business, a guy that I've been watching for the better part of 10 or 15 years, and he's slow clapping me like that. And I'm thinking, sorry, got a bug in my mouth. And I'm thinking, this is amazing. And then the high hits you, right? Now you're up in front of the crowd, and there's no feeling. I mean, it is an amazing feeling to be in front of just what we like to call a hot crowd, like when they're into it. And it was amazing, and things were going good. And he kind of made his way back, and he's put the mic down. He goes, "Hey, we're going to intermission in about 5 minutes." He goes, "I'll take the mic back anytime you're ready." So, I kind of wrap up whatever it is that I'm doing. I give him the mic back, and he's like, "Good job, kid." He's like, "Now go sit over there for intermission." "Yes, sir." So he takes it to intermission. If you know anything about announcing those shows, intermission is the other hard time for the announcer, because they're announcing all the sponsors, and that's when you really go to work, or you did back in the days. I think their whole announcing strategy has changed now. But he had about 2 minutes, and he looks at me. He goes, "Dude," he goes, "home run. You nailed it." He goes, "And I'm going to tell you right now, I would have never walked away for 10 minutes if I wasn't confident in what you were doing out here." So for me, that was the biggest compliment at that time that I'd ever gotten career-wise. I mean, we're going back probably 25 years from right now, maybe even longer than that. So that was a really big deal. And I remember the show ends, and Chucky D came over. I think he was riding a Bobcat or something, because he was involved in the dirt and the crush cars and everything. And he just came over and he thumbs up. He's like, "Awesome, dude." Chuck D, one of my best friends, has always been such a big cheerleader in that. And I give him all the credit in the world for getting me involved with Monster Jam. And then Monster Jam eventually, then we got with Chris and started Trucks Gone Wild. That's more videos for other stuff down the road. But then the rest of the track crew came up. And I remember this dude came up and he shook my hand. He said, "Hey, dude, welcome to the team." And I'm like, "I'm not on the team yet." He goes, "Oh, you're going to be, trust me." And that was it. I just remember the feeling was so positive. And that night, it was, I don't think I came down for days, because you go home and you're like, holy crap, it happened. I could have easily said, "No way. It's way too intimidating to go out there in front of 70,000 people. I'm going to get laughed out of the town." But so what? So what if I did? Who cares? Nobody else would have remembered that now, right? And now, because that went well, I was able to do a bunch of other cool stuff. So again, it's not advice. I can't give anybody advice. I only know what I have done and what has worked for me. But I will tell you this, you need to take advantage of any opportunity that comes your way, because you never know what door is going to open and introduce you to a person who's going to take you over here. It all comes clearer when you're looking back, and it's a mess when you're going through it. But that's my story. I'm so glad I did it. I was nervous. I was sweating. I was a nervous wreck, but I pulled through, and it was all good. And you can do the same thing. Do not ever be afraid to fail.